Okay, welcome everyone. Build Out here. Super excited about this video. And in today's video, we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to talk about the project manager's risk management process. Yup, I think it's time to go back, do a rewind, and really understand the importance and the processes to follow to manage risks on your project. No, AI is not going to do all this work for you. AI, it will eventually get there, but it's not going to do it. So today we have to go back to the basics and we have to do good and solid risk management processes on our projects. Make sense? Awesome. Before I go too far, I want to spend a minute and introduce myself. My name is Bill Dow. I have 30 plus years hands-on experience in the project management industry. I've been doing this for a long time. For the last 20 years, I've ran 10 PMOs across 4 different companies, right? Last year, I was recognized as the PMO Influencer of the Year for PMO Global Awards. So I really do know this stuff and I know it very well, and I'm very passionate about sharing it and really giving you my best practices and experiences. And this whole Dow Publishing LLC YouTube channel is around PMO and project management and sharing my best practices and my experiences for you all on your projects. Okay, we all know that risk management is a critical part of project success. I can't stress that enough. From scope creep to resource constraints to unforeseen challenges, we're going to have risks on our projects. Even the most carefully planned projects will have risks on their projects. Right? Make sense? Okay. So let me give you some best practices. Let's go back to the basics and let's talk about how you should manage risks on your projects. All right, let's dive into it. Number 1, you have to foster a risk awareness culture. What do I mean by that? Basically, that means everyone who's involved in your projects should be allowed to add risks and raise risks and talk about risks on your project. If you've got a risk log, SharePoint site, whatever it is where you store your risks, make sure everyone on the team is allowed to enter those risks. I can't stress that enough. When you have stakeholders or leadership and they have risks, enter those risks on their behalf. A risk awareness culture will really drive everyone talking about risks on the project and preventing them from becoming issues. Number 2, establishing a risk management framework, often created by the PMO, if you have one. But what are the processes for identification, assessment, response, monitoring, controlling, right? How do you do that for your risks? You have to have a framework. So number 2 is really driving a standard risk management framework. Number 3, risk identification and assessment. The PM should regularly look through the risks on their project. They allow anyone to identify them, but the team should assess them, right? So what risks are we having? Let's identify them and let's put a process in place where you assess them. It could be a separate risk meeting. It could be your status meeting. Whatever the case may be, you need an assessment and identification process. Number 4, a risk response planning. So once you have identified and you assess them, now you need to respond to them. And we all know there's avoidance and transfer and mitigation and acceptance and all that goodness. You have to understand how are you going to respond to your risks, and you want to plan that out and you want to work with your team members on that. Does that make sense? Okay. Before I continue, let me ask you a quick question. How serious do you take risk management on your projects? Do you have a formal process? Do you do it once a week, once a month, once a day? How formal are you? Comment below and let me know what you're doing. Because I know there's a lot of talk about AI and AI is going to do this and AI is going to do that. Hold on to that for a sec. Until we see it, we don't know. So you got to do it yourself, and following these best practices is a great way of doing it yourself. Number 5, risk monitoring and controlling. Now you need a process to continue to monitor and control the risks that potentially become issues on your project. What's that process? Is it your weekly status meeting? Is it a separate meeting? Is it you looking at that and you talking to your team members? Whatever that monitoring and controlling process is, you have to have one for your project. Number 6, risk reporting and communication. Often we see risks and issues, but we see our risks in our status reports. That's a great way of doing it. You could have a separate risk report. You could have a separate risk meeting, right? However you want to report and communicate that, you have to have a process to do that and take that very seriously throughout your life of your project. Number 7, continuous improvement and lessons learned. One of the things I've been talking about for years is scrap that lessons learned meeting at the end of the project. Do lessons learned throughout the life of the project. No one ever cares about those big meetings. But if you're course correcting and doing lessons learned throughout the life of the project, especially around what you're doing around risk management, you'll have a better chance of running a successful project because you're course correcting. Does that make sense? Okay, let's wrap up for today. In project management, one of the most critical components of project success is risk management. I just gave you the 7 best practices that I follow, and I would suggest you to follow on your projects as well, right? Don't worry about AI right now. We'll get there. But remember, every project's going to have risks, and you as a project manager, you as a leader, you as a PMO leader need to establish a risk management process and have your PMs follow it, or you follow it as the PM. Does that make sense? Okay. If you like these types of videos and you like this experience and background after 30 plus years of doing this, definitely like, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you online. Thanks.